If you are over 60 and you have noticed something change in your face this past year, a darkening, a cracking at the corners of your mouth, a small wound that will not heal, your body is not just getting older. Your body is sending you a message about your blood sugar that most doctors will miss for another 10 years. I am going to show you the 10 signs in the exact order I find them on the porch where I have served my people for 55 years. The most important one, the master sign, I am saving for last, because that one tells you how much time you have to turn this around. But before the first sign, I have to tell you why your face is showing this now and not when you were 40. Because the answer to that question is the reason most folks over 60 cannot fix the problem with diet alone, no matter how hard they try. My name is Ezekiel Campbell. Most folks just call me Papa. I am a bush healer in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica, the way my grandfather was before me. 5 generations of my family have watched the bodies of our heal people, and I am going to share what we have seen. Here is the first thing nobody tells you. After 60, the body undergoes a quiet collapse that has nothing to do with willpower. The bacteria in your gut, the ones that govern how your blood handles sugar, thin out by nearly 50%. A study from a research center in California followed adults from 40 to 75 and found this drop is not gradual, it accelerates after 60. By 75, the gut garden of most adults looks like a field after a long drought. Half the topsoil is gone. This matters because those bacteria do 3 jobs that keep your blood sugar steady. They digest the fibers your body cannot break down on its own. They produce small healing compounds that calm inflammation, and they crowd out the harmful bugs that drive sugar spikes. When half are gone, the blood goes haywire, and the face shows it first. That is why the same diet that worked for you at 50 stops working at 65. The morning walk, the bitter tea, on their own only get most folks part of the way home. The foundation is right. The foundation is necessary, but the foundation alone is no longer enough after 60. And I am going to come back to that because there is a missing piece I want to share with you. Now let me show you what your face is trying to say. Number 10, the darkening on the back of the neck. This is the sign most folks never check because it sits in a place you cannot see unless you turn your head and use a hand mirror. It looks like dirt that will not wash off. A soft velvety brown patch sitting on the skin at the back of the neck, sometimes spreading to the underarms or the groin. Folks scrub it for years thinking they are not bathing well. They are bathing fine. The patch is not dirt. When insulin in the blood stays too high for too many years, it acts on the skin cells the way fertilizer acts on a garden bed. The skin cells multiply too fast, the pigment cells with them, and you get this dark, thick patch. Think of it like rust forming on a bicycle chain that has been left out in the rain too long. The chain still works, but the rust is telling you the rain has been getting in for years. I had a patient, Beatrice, 71 years old, a retired school teacher from Vermont. She came to me about her knees, but I noticed the back of her neck when she turned her head. She told me she had been scrubbing that patch for 2 years, thinking she was unclean. We worked on her food, the bitter melon tea, the morning walk before breakfast. 12 weeks in, her fasting glucose had dropped by 22%, and the patch was lightening. But here is the part most folks need to hear. The patch did not fully clear until we added what I am going to share with you in a few minutes. The food and the walking got her 70% of the way home. The last 30% needed something her body could no longer make on its own. Hold that thought. Check the back of your neck this week. Use a hand mirror. If the skin looks darker than the skin on your shoulder, your body has been quietly speaking for a while. But the neck is only the beginning, and the next sign sits on the front of your face where you see it every morning. Number 9, the dryness and cracking at the corners of the lips. Folks blame this on the weather. The cold, the wind, the dry air in the house. They reach for the lip balm. But when this cracking keeps coming back, no matter the season, no matter how much balm you put on, something deeper is at work. The medical name is angular cheilitis, and the cause is not the weather. High blood sugar feeds the small yeasts that live naturally on the skin around the mouth. At the same time, the immune defense in your saliva grows weaker. Picture a small fire alarm that has been disconnected. The yeasts, which should be kept in check, begin to grow, and the corners of the lips crack and refuse to heal. After 60, the saliva itself thins, less of it, drier, less protective. So the yeasts have an easier time. My old uncle, may his soul rest, had this for years before his sugar sickness was caught. He kept a tube of cream in every pocket. None of it worked. The problem was not on his lips. The problem was in his blood. If your mouth has been cracking at the corners for more than 3 months, no matter what season it is, listen to it. Number 8. The small skin tags around the neck and eyelids. These are the soft little flaps of skin that hang from the neck, the underarms, sometimes around the eyelids themselves. Folks call them age tags and shrug them off. But the bush doctors knew something the cosmetic counter does not. When the body is producing too much insulin for too many years, the insulin acts like a growth signal on the skin, and these tags begin to multiply. Researchers in the Midwest looked at older adults who developed clusters of new skin tags after 55, and they found that more than half had insulin resistance that had not yet been diagnosed. If you have noticed 3 or more new tags in the past year, especially around the eyelids or the front of the neck, your body is whispering. And the next sign comes on warm and pink, often after the very meal that should be feeding you. Number 7. The warm flush across the cheeks after meals. Many of my women patients in their 60s and 70s blame this on hot flushes lingering, or on spicy food, or on tea sipped too quickly. But there is another thing it can be. When the blood sugar spikes after a meal, the small blood vessels in the cheeks dilate, and the face flushes warm and pink. It comes on 15 to 30 minutes after eating, and it fades over the next hour. If you are paying attention, you can feel it, a warmth across the cheekbones, a softness around the temples. Frances, 68, a former church organist from Tennessee, came to me thinking she was still in menopause at 68 years old. The flush always came after meals, never randomly. Bread at breakfast, flush. Rice at lunch, flush. We changed her morning to a thick porridge of oats and cinnamon with crushed walnuts. The flushing came down by 60% in 3 weeks. But the flush only fully stopped, my dear ones, when we rebuilt her gut from the inside, the way I am going to share with you in a moment. Because the food was right. The food was necessary, but the food alone at her age could not do it. Number 6. The patches on the face that look like sunburn that will not heal. These are the rough, slightly raised, reddish-brown patches that show up on the cheeks, the forehead, the bridge of the nose. They are not eczema, they are not rosacea. When blood sugar runs high for years, the small capillaries that feed the skin become inflamed and fragile. The skin in those patches becomes thinner, drier, slower to heal. I had a man come to me with a patch on his cheek he had been treating with creams for 18 months. We never touched the patch with another cream. We worked on his blood from the inside, and within 4 months the patch was gone. The body underneath is asking for help, and no cream you put on top will fix what is wrong in the blood underneath. So let me tell you before we go further, what I have learned to do for my own people about this missing piece I keep mentioning. For most of my 55 years on the porch, I was a stubborn man. The bitter teas, the walks, the cinnamon bark, the porridge, these were the medicine of my grandfather and his grandfather. They worked. For decades they worked. But about 12 years ago, I started seeing something I could not fix with the old ways alone. My patients in their late 60s and 70s, the ones doing everything right, were hitting a wall. Their fasting glucose would drop a little, then it would stick, their faces would clear a little, then the patches would stay. The bitter teas were no longer reaching the place they used to reach. I traveled. I read papers I did not understand at first. I called a researcher in the United States who studies the gut bacteria of older adults. He explained what I now want to explain to you. After 60, when half of the gut bacteria have died off, no amount of fiber, no amount of bitter tea, no amount of fermented food can rebuild the garden by itself. The body needs three things working together. It needs the food for the bacteria, what scientists call prebiotics. It needs the bacteria themselves, what we call prebiotics. And it needs the small healing compounds those bacteria make when they are well fed, what we call postbiotics. Think of it like growing a tree. The seed is the prebiotic. The soil is the prebiotic. The fruit is the postbiotic. Most products on the market give you only the seed. Some give you only the soil. None of those will produce fruit on a body that is past 60. You need all three planted at the same time, in the same place every day, to bring the garden back. I tried for years to do this with food and teas alone, and I could get my elders most of the way, but there was always a stubborn final percentage I could not move, until I found a small chewable thing my own family started keeping on the kitchen counter. It is called BoochBod. It is a kombucha gummy, not a pill, because most of my elders cannot swallow another capsule on top of all the others their doctor has them taking. It contains all three: the prebiotic fiber, a clinically studied probiotic strain called lactospore, and a postbiotic called postbiotics LM1004. It also has dandelion root and slippery elm in it, two of the very plants my grandfather grew in a small patch behind his house and steeped into bitter teas for the women with sugar trouble. The new science meeting the old porch. Over 30,000 folks are using it now, and the company stands behind it with a 60-day guarantee. If your face is not changing after 60 days of using it, alongside the food and the walking, you send it back, no questions asked. The link is in the description below, my dear ones. And please speak to your doctor before adding anything new, especially if you are taking medication for blood sugar or blood pressure. Your doctor needs to know what you are putting into your body. That is the rule on my porch, and it is the rule I am giving you now. Beatrice, the school teacher with the neck patch, she added BoochBod to her morning routine in the 8th week. By week 16, the patch was gone. Francis, the organist, the same. The food and the walking were the foundation. BoochBod was the missing piece. I do not say this lightly. After 55 years, I say it because I watched it. Now, back to your face, because we are only halfway through, and the master sign is still coming. Number 5. The receding gum line and the soft bleeding when you brush. The dentist sees this first. The gums pulling back from the teeth, exposing the soft yellow at the root. The small bleeding when you brush, even gently. High blood sugar feeds the bacteria in the mouth the same way it feeds the yeasts on the lips, and the gums pay the price. After 60, this matters more, because gum disease and blood sugar feed each other in a closed loop. The worse the gums, the higher the sugar. The higher the sugar, the worse the gums. Once that loop is running, food alone will not break it. Number 4. The sunken look around the eyes that comes on too fast. This is the one that hurts most to talk about, because folks see it in the mirror and feel old before their time. The eyes look hollow, the skin underneath looks bruised and thin, and it happened in months, not years. When the body cannot use sugar properly, it begins burning through fat and protein in places it should not, including the soft tissue around the eyes. This wasting around the eyes is one of the earliest signs the body has stopped processing energy correctly. If you look at a photograph from 12 months ago and the eyes in that photograph look fuller than the eyes in your mirror today, your body is asking for help, not creams. Help. Number 3. The deep crease running from the earlobe down toward the jaw. There is a diagonal crease that sometimes appears on the earlobe itself, and a deeper line that runs from the bottom of the ear toward the jaw. Heart researchers have studied this crease for decades. It is associated with reduced blood flow to the small vessels of the face, the same vessels that feed the heart. And in folks with rising blood sugar, this crease deepens faster. When I see this crease on a patient who has come to me for something else, I gently ask when they last had their blood sugar checked. Often the answer is years ago or never. Number 2, the yellowing of the skin around the eyes and on the eyelids. Small soft yellow patches on the eyelids, the corners of the eyes, sometimes spreading to the cheeks. These are deposits of fat in the skin, and they appear in folks whose blood sugar and cholesterol are climbing together. After 60, when the body is struggling to clear sugar and fat from the blood, these small yellow patches are a quiet warning. The fix is not cosmetic. The fix is rebuilding how the body handles sugar and fat in the first place, from the gut up. And now we come to it, the master sign, the one I have saved for last, because in 55 years of watching the faces of my people, this is the one that tells me the most. Number 1, the small wound on the face that will not heal, a small cut while shaving, a scrape from the garden, a bite from a sandfly. On a healthy body, a small wound on the face closes in 3 or 4 days. The skin knits itself back. The redness fades. By the end of the week, the only thing left is a faint pink line. But when blood sugar has been creeping up quietly for years, that small wound stays open for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes longer. It crusts and reopens. It gets infected. It leaves a mark that lingers for months. High blood sugar damages the small blood vessels that bring oxygen and immune cells to the wound. The white blood cells move slower. The new tissue forms weaker. The skin becomes a city where the repair crews cannot reach the broken places. After 60, when the immune response has already slowed naturally, this delay becomes severe. A small wound on the face becomes a long story. A research center on the East Coast followed nearly 2,000 adults over 60 for 11 years. Adults whose small wounds took more than 10 days to heal were nearly 3 times as likely to develop full diabetes within 5 years. 3 times. The laboratories spent 11 years to find what my great-grandmother saw when she watched a small cut on her husband's chin take 3 weeks to close, the year before his sugar sickness was diagnosed. She had seen it twice before, in her own mother and her own brother. She knew. Vincent, 74, a retired carpenter from Montana, came to me about a shaving cut that had been weeping for nearly 4 weeks. He had been to 2 doctors. We worked on his food, his morning walk, his Cerasee tea before breakfast. We added BoochBod in the 3rd week. After 16 weeks, his fasting glucose had dropped by 19%, and the cut had healed cleanly 2 months before that. He told me on the phone, his voice breaking, that he had nicked himself shaving that morning, and the bleeding had stopped before he finished his coffee. He had forgotten what that felt like. That is the body coming home to itself, and that is what I want for you. A few small things before we close. Walk 45 minutes before breakfast. Every day the weather allows. The muscles, when they move on an empty stomach, pull sugar from the blood without needing insulin. Eat the protein first, then the vegetables, then the carbohydrate. Same plate, just changing the order. This alone reduces the after-meal spike in older folks. Cut the white bread, the white rice, the sweet drinks for 90 days and watch what your face does. Drink a bitter tea of Cerasee or fenugreek seed in the morning. Let the body rest by 9 in the evening. And if you are over 60, give your gut what it can no longer make on its own. The seed, the soil, the fruit, all 3 together every day. That is the missing piece. Your face is not a vanity matter, my dear ones. Your face is the front porch of your body. Everything happening inside the house shows up on the porch first. The skin, the eyes, the gums, the small wounds, the warm flush after meals. All of it is the body speaking through the mirror. You are protecting 2 things. You are protecting your own feet. The feet you want to walk on for another 20 years, into your garden, around your kitchen, down to the mailbox in the morning when the dew is still on the grass. And you are protecting the small hand of a grandchild waiting for you at the school gate, the small hand you want to feel when she squeezes yours. because the nerves still work, because the blood still moves, because you listened to your face when it tried to tell you something. The link to BoochBod is right below in the description with the 60-day guarantee. So the only thing standing between you and a healing body is one click and a conversation with your doctor. If your face is not changing in 2 months, you send it back. That is the deal. Walk with the Creator, my dear ones. I will see you on the porch.